I'd like to concentrate on the government's sustained and quite cynical attacks on solar and wind energy, and of course on watering down the building energy efficiency building requirements. It's going to be bad news for jobs in energy efficiency and renewables. I would have thought we'd all care about that. It's bad news for our ability to cut carbon emissions and tackle climate change. And it's bad news for ordinary people who want to invest and benefit from green, clean energy. The only beneficiaries from this are going to be nuclear and fossil fuels and fracking industries, which, as far as I'm concerned, should have all of their subsidy taken away. Despite the recent rise in unemployment, the renewables industry in London has been growing very strongly, employing more than 50,000 people and accounting for about £1 billion worth of exports. And I think it's high time that Boris Johnson came to the aid of green jobs. He's got to vocally denounce the government's ideologically driven cuts and changes, as this motion proposes. The most recent case in point is the slashing of the feed-in tariff by almost 90% by January next year. The solar industry has consistently argued for stable, predictable reductions in tariffs so that they can plan properly. And in its place, the government's enormous cuts are actually pushing the whole industry over a cliff edge. And I would like to ask if anybody here knows the actual cost of solar subsidies on the average household. Does anybody know how much it costs?
Too much.
Tell us.
Too much.
£3 a year.
Too much.
On every household. I hope my Tory colleagues and others who are in Westminster will point that out next time you hear Amber Rudd, the so-called Energy and Climate Change Secretary, Minister, when she talks about keeping bills as low as possible for hard-working families. Perhaps you'll tell her it's £3 a year. So I think the government's actually showing quite a lot of contempt for people when it distorts its message so obviously. And the government makes a meal out of the relatively small subsidies for energy efficiency and renewables, but it's offering a blank cheque to fracking, for example, and to nuclear. There's £17 billion in public subsidies for the proposed Hinkley Point nuclear power station. I would say that's very poor value for money, as well as gross hypocrisy. And let's not forget how much nuclear decommissioning costs the taxpayer. It cost, in 1 year alone, £8 billion in 2013 to 14. I think this motion sends a very clear message to the Mayor that he's got to, first of all, perhaps appear in City Hall occasionally, perhaps take his job seriously occasionally, even though he's at Westminster now. And so I do urge you all to vote for the motion. Thank you.